Hey, Tom here, FlipAnythingUSA. Happy New Year, everyone. I haven't been on here much lately. I got Chris here with me. How was your New Year, Chris?
New Year was great, man. I had Christmas, New Year, good time with the family, making memories, eating good food. Probably ate too much food, So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to a good year, a new year, especially in real estate. I think there's going to be some interesting things happening this year.
It's for sure going to be a fantastic year. So I've sold 3 houses. I closed one yesterday. I got 2 more to go. In fact, I've got an agent actually bugging me right now about signing an amendment.
And I've got a property right now that I'm flipping and hope to put it in the market here in the next 2 weeks.
And what? That's a piece of land, right?
Yeah, it was a mobile home that had a mobile home fire, and basically past 2 or 3 weeks I've had some guys disassembling it and putting it in a dumpster. There was nothing salvageable.
Right.
And so, and then I got some guys in there to trim the trees on the lot. There's some gorgeous big oak trees, and it's got a water view. And so I think somebody will pay. Well, we'll see in this market, but I think somebody will pay a decent price for it because it's one of those lots it's rare. These things don't come up often.
And so a lot of people don't realize the wealthiest of people are really not bothered much by this downturn. By the way, and it's just how it is. And I'm talking about ultra wealthy. Everybody's affected to a degree. I've been really lucky. I'm not sure why I haven't been affected more. My businesses that rent from me all are surviving well, doing well, bugging me for extended leases, longer leases, which is an interesting thing at this time. So nobody's worried about having a hedge whether or not to get out of the market or not. But we can talk about some things. Of course, I live on quite a few different databases looking for new deals, and I thought it'd be interesting. We could talk about. I've been talking about Ryan Pineda's fund. I thought was a disaster. I didn't like the properties that they bought. Obviously Grant Cardone's got problems. His lawsuits just got reopened up. He can be sued personally. Apparently, he basically lost a hearing. A piece of a war on the 21st of December. So.
And if anybody's watching right now, if you give us a thumbs up in the chat, let us know if our stream is good. Might have some internet issues here.
Yeah.
As I'm observing on this end of things, Tom.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, yeah. We may. I actually have work being done outside that might be affecting what's going on here inside. So if you guys would let us know if audio's good, if the video's good, or if it's good enough, or we'll hang it up if it's not. But let's talk about this. This is actually an interesting subject, and this is one I kind of went through with my class. You guys know I have a mentorship. And we'll get right back to this in 1 minute. If you just got here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'm going to show you a colossal mistake by sometimes the big funds, the guys that put the money together for the big funds, they make the biggest mistakes. And you're going to see that in a minute. Again, so if you just got here, please hit that subscribe button. I've been investing in real estate for 41 years, started when I was 19 years old. I was a millionaire in the 80s when I was in my 20s, and it's been a wonderful life, and I don't feel like I've ever even hardly worked a day. The only miserable times I've had is when I've been greedy and tried to make more and more and more and more, and sometimes being overextended. But it's not the worst problem, and a lot of lessons learned. So it's been a lot of fun. So, okay, great. I appreciate that input, Warren Buffett. So, yeah, we may have some sporadic freezing, but anyways, we'll keep it on task here on the subject, and I'm not going to worry about it too much. So, why don't you take a look at this? This is really an interesting property to examine. Now, this is roughly a 70,000 square foot beautiful piece of property. I mean, beautiful piece of property. But it's also a colossal mistake.
Yeah, I know this property, Tom, and when you mentioned it earlier, I didn't need many clues to know which property you were talking about because Again, this is me being a rookie, but when they built this thing,
let's not talk about where it's at either.
No. But when they built this thing, and I drive by this often, I thought it would fill up right away, and it's kind of a ghost town.
Yeah. So I'm having trouble with the Google now, apparently too. All right. I apologize, everyone. Let's see.
You're stuck in the blue. But it's a typical, not a typical, it's probably atypical strip center, large industrial, commercial.
Not industrial,
not
but
industrial, commercial.
This is a large retail center, and you can see, I mean, this thing's like 70,000 square feet. You know, it's got probably, I mean, I'm going to guess that it's got about 280 parking spots, because that's what it has to have, really, for retail in general. But this is a fairly recent building, and it's nearly completely empty. And this is somebody that put a fund together, got some partners together to buy a property and make a deal, and this is why this thing is such a colossal failure.
It's probably like, what, 2 or 3 stories too, right?
It's mostly single story, but take a look at this from the sky, and what you see here, and what the problem is with this property is, it's like the last stop out of town on your way to a not so busy road that is actually it's kind of a dangerous road, to be honest. This road through here, it's quite dangerous. It's just curvy. It's only 2 lanes. There's no center lane, you know. So in other words, you cross over the line, you know, it's bad news for you. But some of the problems with it include when you come out here, before you even get to the property, the bulk of your customers they're all over here, they're down here, they're up here. See, you can see this is sporadic here. It's not very dense. There's no density. So that's where you don't want to be. In fact, when you see in downturns like this, you'll see the guys that kind of jumped ahead and like speculated that there was going to be continued growth, and then maybe that's what happened with these folks. Obviously, they anticipated more growth than ever happened, and so as a result, you've got this retail center that before you get to the retail center, everybody is taking this main thoroughfare that you see above my head. And where do they go? They turn left. They turn here.
Right before they get there.
And they turn here, because this is the density. This is the money. This is what takes care of those buildings and keep those people in business. And so as a result, nobody even sees this place. And like I say, it's a gorgeous property, but it's you know, we're talking, you know, probably a $10-15 million center.
I just kind of realized something in my mind, and you've said this 100 times. I just thought about it differently, though, Tom, in regards to real estate. People talk about cash flow all the time with buildings, but you also talk a lot about cars driving and being on the going home side of the road if you're a particular kind of business. And so now I'm starting to think like cash flow is actually like the more cars and traffic you have flowing by your business, that produces good cash flow.
Yeah, in fact, if you guys, just as a lesson for you guys that are out there watching, if you examine an area, when you go driving somewhere, take a look at the traffic on what you would consider the going home side of the road. I have some properties that are actually on both. In other words, people are there's work going both ways. So both sides of the road are good. But in general, a lot of areas, only one side is good. In other words, you're leaving your small town from the suburbs and you're going to work. So on that side, that's the going to work side of the road. But now coming back home, we need to have time to grab groceries and, you know, have a drink at the bar, go, you know, whatever you do on your way home. That's usually the side that flourishes the most, that does the best. And these guys are on neither. You know,
well, and
it's not crazy, on the going home side of the word or the going to work side of the word.
What's crazy, and let's talk a little bit about being speculative here. they're literally a stone's throw from the intersection where the cars are going to turn.
Yeah.
But the cars do have to go out of their way to go to that shopping center.
Yeah. So the problem with this property is it just relies on a whole lot more growth. It's like they speculate, and I tell people in the class all the time. I'm not a speculator. Everything I buy is worth more than I pay for it. I know the day that I buy it what it's worth. I know the day that I buy it what I can resell it for. And these guys, and I've seen this happen in other areas too. In fact, a buddy of mine, he was really lucky. He offloaded a pretty big apartment building, like, I don't know, maybe 200 or 300 units. And he sold it, and it was right when all the COVID stuff started being announced, but not everybody realized how big a deal it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And then they hit him up for another $35,000 off. He was pissed off about it, but he took it, and is he glad he did.
Yeah, no doubt.
But again, he was in a town where there was not something that big being built, but there was like new McDonald's and new, all the new, triple-rated kinds of stores and things that you would see. But they were all, they've got it within their budget to go ahead and plan it out there, and they go, okay, well, it'll be a wash for a few years, and then it'll make sense, and we'll whatever the reasoning was, they did it. Well, he looked at all these new little, stores, or food places, as, this place is hit it, this place is there, and it was a mistake. And he bought his building. He thought he was stealing it because it was poorly managed, had a 30% vacancy. And it took him forever to get that thing filled up. And he realized the problem wasn't the management. The problem was the demographic.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there.
And, this building, if this building was built just half a mile in the other direction, I'd be curious to see what it would, if, the leases would be filled.
Yeah, in all honesty, it's just not a good spot. It's just not a good spot. I mean, even, and we'll go back to this. I'll bring it over here. If you follow down this road, like I say, here's another shopping center here. Now, this is an older shopping center. It's not as attractive. It's not as pretty. But you can see there's cars in the parking lot.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question, Tom. So as we're on the topic of bad location, bad investments, what do you think about properties that are maybe in a good location? However, the geography of the land lends itself to where maybe the property is kind of up on a hill and you can't really see it from the road, but you do have signage on the road. Like, does that hurt?
Well, no, that's you're bringing up. Actually, that's a good subject. It's one that I've actually talked to in the class one time. Because of the internet. In other words, right now, like if you're going to go stay somewhere that you've never been before, you look up hotels, and then you look up the proximity of to where the hotel is to maybe where you need to be, a conference or otherwise. That's what you look at, the proximity. It doesn't matter if the building's hidden. So I'm starting to see more hotels and stuff. They don't necessarily have to be right on an interstate. They can be tucked away a little bit.
Sure.
And it's because people know they're there from other means.
Okay.
But I have a building that I've kept full forever, and you can't even see it from the road. And it's between a railroad track and a pretty decent thoroughfare. But there's buildings in front of it. Nobody knows it's there, but it stays full all year. And it's always been one of my best rentals because it's proximity to intelligent people that live downtown. Because it's a high dollar, it's a high dollar area.
Right.
And so people will find a place that, so when the people rent from me, they're like, oh, no, this is perfect. Whether it's a gym, a tech company or whatever. Mm-hmm. So let's look at some questions we got here. Daniel Otero wrote, hey, Tom, many think the Fed will go to 5, from 5 to 5.5. Is there a possibility they'll go higher? It's hard to think they'll just stop. Hey, listen, what they're looking for to happen is they're looking to just basically kill any inflation, and they want to kill it everywhere. And, I think it's going to go up another 0.5 point next month, something like that. They're just not, there's still a lot of money floating around. But it's going to take its toll on the prices. But I don't know. The government's never been run so poorly as it is right now, in my opinion. So who knows? Matt wrote, have you had any insulting offers? Hey, listen, I don't consider any of my offers insulting. They're practical. I'm not a speculator. Until you buy a property that actually goes down in value, you'll appreciate the fact that you can go out and you're just bidding based on a value that you think you're going to be able to hold and maintain a profit on. Because I've seen plenty of properties that have been purchased and then people are upside down on them. But, and I know what you mean though, Matt, but yeah, I have actually. I didn't personally get this one. Russ in my class, he had a fantastic deal. He bought there was already a good deal. It was priced at $750, but it was right when they had the last Fed, rate hike. People were more a little paralyzed around him and doing anything, and it was still a decent deal at $750. And I think he was kind of looking at it. He was getting ready to maybe make an offer, and then the seller dropped it from $750 to $550. Well, the day they dropped it to $550, he came over and offered $350, another $200,000 off. And guess what? The agent said, "Oh, they're never going to take that." The agent considered it an insulting offer, and didn't even want to present it, but he has to. And he presented it, and they said, "We'll take it." And
wow.
So that was a home run.
That is a home run.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I had that building myself. It's nice. I need a project. I'm kind of looking right now. Oh, hey, Russ.
Hey, Russ.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah, there
That's
you go.
The guy that just I was just talking about your deal. Somebody asked if there'd been any insulting offers, accepted.
Again, it's a bargain offer. I mean, for Russ.
Well,
if somebody really needs to get rid of the property, they get rid of the property.
Yeah. Well, the agents, I'd say, sometimes agents, I always try to deal with the dealing agent, the dealing broker, the one who has the listing. And the reason I do that is because I want to be as close to the seller as I can. And nobody's closer to the seller than the listing agent. Now, that can backfire sometimes because maybe the offer I'm going to make, like I say, could be considered insulting. And maybe that price that was set by the actual agent. And if it was set by the actual agent, he feels insulted. He feels like, how am I going to hand this to him? I just told him, that's part of the basis of me getting the listing, is I told him that it was worth X, and now you're offering, substantially less than that. Hey, by the way, I'm getting all kinds of indications that the feed is terrible. If you guys are not hearing us or if we're having a problem, let me know. And because anyways, by the way, we have gotten some new equipment, and
we're working out the kinks.
Yes, so even though it's jittery, the picture may actually be better right now. Anyways, give us any feedback you got, and we'll take it. But the main thing is that we can communicate. I don't care about the freezing so much.
Volume is a bit low, Anthony says, and Tom, you do sound a little bit low. I don't know if we can adjust that for you.
Crank that up. So, 1, 2, yeah.
Maybe that's a little bit better.
Maybe.
Hey, Barry. Yeah. Hey, Anthony.
Yeah. Hey, Barry. Hadn't seen you in a while. Barry, you've been watching since the beginning? No jitters? Or much?
Yeah, there was an RV park I was looking at out beyond here, and they just dropped the price $500,000. I don't know. I'm really torn though.
Sure.
When you start talking about apartment buildings and RV parks and mobile home parks and all that, like we've talked about this, Tom, it's like I don't want a job. Like I don't want to manage it. So if it pencils where I can have a company do that or get somebody to manage it, that's what I'd prefer.
Right. And Chris here, he got rid of an Airbnb that he had that treated him quite nicely, and it carried the asset to the point that when the values went way up, he sold it and he made a killing, and now he's got that cash still in his hands to make other deals. And this is one of the things you have to realize, people, because that's one of the most common questions I get in class is, should I keep it or should I sell it? And they'll say, I'm making 20% on the asset. Well, I mean, if you're making 20% on your $40,000 equity, so what you're making, what was that, $800 a year, or what am I thinking? Yeah, no, it'd be $8,000 a year. So you're making $8,000 a year on your $40,000. And that sounds good, right? It sounds good, making a 20% return. The problem is you're not going to get rich on $8,000 a year. And the other question I'll usually ask when somebody asks me that, I'll say, well, how much did you spend to create this asset, or to get this asset that you have $40,000 equity? And almost every time, well, I put $5,000 down, or I put $10,000 down. So you took $10,000 and you made $30,000 equity with one purchase. So it's like a no-brainer. Of course you want to sell it, because if you can do the same thing, if you can take 10 and make 30, then you can take 40 and make 120. And then you do the math on that. Let's just say you just take 10 and make 30 again. Well, it's going to take 3 1/3 years for you to make as much on that $8,000 a year as it is going to be for you just to do the same thing you did in a week.
Right.
So
yeah. And they exist. The deals exist out there, for sure.
Yeah. So everybody, listen. I always invest, but I know, I don't like to treat people like they're dummies. I always think people are much more capable than they are. There's a lot of people that give advice to people that don't have much common sense, and I don't mean to insult anybody out there, but it's true. Like Sue Zorman, I think, is one, and what's his name?
Dave Ramsey.
Oh, you only pay cash. Only pay cash for what you buy. Only pay cash. Well, he's making $1 million a year or something, or probably more than that. Paying cash is not a big deal when you make a lot of money, okay? But it is impossible to pay cash when you're just a regular, average working person, right? And so, and I would still be an average working person if I paid cash for everything. I pay cash for a lot of stuff now. But even when I do pay cash for things now, usually it's temporary. I pay cash, and I'm gonna leverage out, take some money out of it, and pay cash for something else with whatever I pulled out. But again, I continue to leverage. Leveraging is how you get rich and how you make money. You make money off of the bank's money. And there's some of the fake gurus that they make money off of your money. They entice you to bring your money in. They buy property they couldn't buy without you, and then they got nothing to lose, and because they're playing with your money.
Yeah.
Barry wrote, Dave Ramsey doesn't want his listeners to become wealthy through investing. No, I don't think he wants them to invest at all, at least not than what I've seen. But again, like I say, he's not there for that. He's more like, I just feel like he's talking to people that
don't know how to manage their money.
We're talking like, don't know how to manage.
Right. He does a good job
at the most lowest level.
He does a good job of holding people's hand and helping them get out of debt and all the stupid money decisions they've made. Yeah. But his take is, in my opinion, because I've done the Dave Ramsey thing personally, and my wife and I paid off $80,000 of school debt on a church salary in 3 years. So for us, that was outstanding. So kudos to Dave. He helped us with that.
Yeah, but you could have been investing that money earlier and probably paid it off quicker.
Maybe we didn't have 2 pennies to rub together.
It gave you.
I mean, seriously.
Well, I understand. Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you.
Yeah,
that's always a chance when you say I'm going to make a comment like that.
Yeah.
But I had a guy. Go ahead.
But it was honestly like the Dave stuff. Again, if you're, I think every situation is just a little bit different depending on how much you owe, what you're currently making, what you're able to make, where you're stuck, and also money like illiteracy. Like if you don't know just how to use money. So to your point, you should be investing, and we were investing at that time, but we also had a ton of debt we had to pay off.
Yeah, but see, debt doesn't bother me. I mean, you had
Right.
debt that wasn't making you money, and that's going to happen. I mean, once you start having kids and you start, if you're an average person, you finance their education. I've been very lucky. I've made all my money way before that.
Right.
So it's just checks for college, tuition, all that stuff, no big deal. But Wow, you remind me of something I was going to say.
You can do it differently.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, I mean, that's what's terrible is people go get, they'll spend $120,000 on an education to make a $60,000 job. And then they are stuck because
If they can get that job.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. You go to school and then I go, you're making $60,000 a year. Maybe if you're lucky, you can save $10,000 a year. It's going to take you 12 years to pay off your debt, and so it just makes financial sense. And from what I understand, nobody ever seems to have to pay their school loans back or on time or anything else. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
we
it
paid
is.
ours, but I guess if we waited long enough, we wouldn't have.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I never had a school loan, so I don't know. But I've heard a little bit about things and other people, and I remember I had a doctor buddy of mine, and he said, "Oh, I got it." And he bought homes, he traveled, he went all over the place, he spent money like crazy, and he said, "Yeah, I owe this $100,000. I got to pay this school debt," but he never paid any of it ever. He never paid any of it ever. I go, well, fuck, why don't you pay some of it then? And keep talking about it. It just bothers him that he owes it. But
Right.
He doesn't want to. He doesn't have to do anything about it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Ernie Estrada, Ron LeGrand never wants you to borrow. Man, Ron LeGrand, that's a name. Ron LeGrand was selling real estate courses or books. I think back when I was probably 15 years old.
I don't know who he is.
Yeah, he's been around a while. Yeah. I'll tell you who was a really, well, I mean, non-real estate is the guy that I like best is, who's the speaker? The speaker that I've talked about? Damn, his name escapes me at the moment. I didn't even discover him until he died. But everything that he says I pretty much agree with. He's really a one-of-a-kind guy. Jim Rohn. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jim Rohn's fantastic. Another guy, Charles Givens. Charles Givens was really, it's sad. He wrote a book called something Wealth. Anyways, he had some really good practical advice. He'd tell you, like, buy your dream car 3 years after it comes out, meaning buy a used car, buy your dream car, buy it used. And that's all great advice. You know?
Yeah.
And Ron LeGrand is the lease option guy. Oh, yeah, could be. Yeah.
Anybody have any current deals that you're working on, or maybe something you just got signed?
Yeah, what are your fears? What are your concerns? Yeah,
my biggest concern is to catch a falling hot potato in a falling market.
It's funny. So Warren Buffett there asked about Dave Del Dotto. I actually know Dave Del Dotto. I only met him in the last 5-6 years, but I met him because I buy really good wine, and he has a connection to really good wine, Del Dotto Vineyards. But he didn't.
But I've used, Tom, just a quick note on the mentorship and your book. I've used some of the tactics that you teach us, and recently I've had probably about, 15 off-market calls come to me for homes and just to discuss an offer. So I've made lots of offers, but it's kind of like the Warren Buffett, like, I'm going to watch as many, pitches come across the plate before I just know it's going to be a home run.
Yeah, and so here's something else we can just talk about, because and a lot of people don't understand why this happens. I mean, Chris were talking about it earlier just a little bit, in LoopNet's not so bad, but let's go to Crexy. It's Crexy.com.
Yeah.
Let's see a little better here. So let's just go, where do you want to go? Let's do retail, and let's do, we'll go to the areas that I'm looking at buying in. Let's go to Tennessee.
I've got family in Tennessee.
What city? Nashville?
Knoxville.
So look, we'll go to Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'll tell you what I'm looking for, and I just so you guys understand why this happens, is you'll see, oh, this is interesting. It says a Hardees. So take a look at this. It says Hardees dark. Now, do you guys know what dark means out there in the YouTube? I just see if anybody out there knows what that means.
I don't.
Dark. Okay. Dark means, so you can buy this Hardees, excellent retail location, but it's dark. That means the lights are off. It's not open.
It's not open.
So
it's not operating.
It's not operating.
They are not making burgers in there.
So you can buy a Hardees, in this case, 2.3 million, and
but it's not operational.
They're renting from you, but for whatever reason, now this could be attributed to a couple things. For everybody knows right now that for whatever reason, ever since this pandemic crap, nobody wants to work. Nobody seems to have to work. There's so many different variants of welfare out there from the government that's not called welfare, but it is welfare. It allows you to eat. It allows you to do a lot of things, get money different ways, and not have to work. And it's just killing the country. It really is killing the country. Because I have tenants myself, and their number one complaint is we can't get anybody to work. You know, we're supposed to go into a downturn and people need money, but nobody seems to work. So it's pretty strange situation. But where I was going with this is, so buying listen, I can see it'd be nice. Yeah, great. No, this is a 5 1/4 cap. I mean, that's not good enough anyways, but let's just say it was a 9 cap. I mean, sure, I'd probably consider it if it was a 9 cap.
But how long does the lease go for?
Well,
that doesn't
you'd
matter.
be surprised. It's probably 5 years or maybe 10. But even if it's 5 years, it's just very weird buying a property that has no activity in it whatsoever.
So when you say that, though, that's the scariest thing for me if I'm getting into any commercial or industrial, if it doesn't have a tenant in there. Because I don't have anything else to back up the payments for that property.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't look. I've seen some real reputable companies that had dark locations. It makes me worry about the whole community, the whole set. You know what I mean? What's wrong with the whole community?
Yeah. Or the company itself? Not
the company. I don't think so. The company. I mean, I've seen some horribly run companies. There's no doubt about it. And Hardees, to be honest, I've never eaten in a Hardees, but I've seen a Whataburger, which does a great job. I've seen a Del Taco that was dark. Del Taco, one of the taco places that I recognized was dark. And the thing is, it just could be indicative of bigger problems in the area. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I mean, I think about a buddy of mine that went. He actually really killed it. He killed it 20 years ago, and I mean, he retired then. He just killed it. I mean, like a really big way, And but before he made it, he was an entrepreneur, and he bought a Hotsy, the hot sprayers.
Okay.
And he got a job, and he was really excited because he got a job where he got to maintain 6 restaurants, keeping them clean, spraying their dumpsters and cleaning, power washing all around the thing. So he gets that, and he goes to the second location he went to. He'd heard a couple of weird things, bangs going around him, and he wraps up. He goes home, and he realizes that there was bullet holes in his trailer and in his truck. And what he figured out was that he was power washing off
graffiti,
the Crips and the Bloods graffiti,
and they were a little upset.
That's ours,
Yikes.
And so, anyways, he shelved that business very quickly. But I thought it was interesting.
So when you say you see that in like, for example, this Hardees in Knoxville.
Yeah, I don't know if that's it or not. I'm just saying.
I know, but how you think that would be indicative of like that neighborhood, that part of town, altogether? Like, what are you trying to get at?
They have a problem with employees in that town. They have a problem employing. Listen, there was a young man. I went through I think it was a Wiener Schnitzel. I hardly ever eaten those things, but I went to a Wiener Schnitzel. I thought I'll get a chili dog. And I drive through, and this guy, sticks his head out and it's kind of like, yeah, takes my money, and I'm like, how you doing? And head comes back out again, and he's got his food, and he's got hickeys all over his neck, but he doesn't want to be there. I mean, I felt like his mom was probably standing at the register saying, "Get your ass over there, hand the customer the food," you know what I mean? And it's a shit work ethic. And,
Customers don't want to go back to
maybe
that.
I'm just catching them on a bad day. I don't know. But again, and I remember seeing, a young black guy interviewed one time, and I only say black because the guy was black. Not that it matters. This is anybody everywhere. There's people, it doesn't matter what color. But anyways, he said, man, I ain't flipping burgers. I ain't going to flip burgers for a living. And this guy could barely read, didn't know shit. And he didn't understand the power of it, that it's a stepping stone. You go there and you flip burgers and you look around and you see how a business operates. You see good people, bad people, people that don't carry their weight that get fired. You see the money, you see the cash register ringing, and you're going, wow, people consume this crap. Gee, maybe you get to look at the invoices and you get to see what it costs, and you can put together that there's a profit to be made here, and you're learning about how to make a business. It's not about flipping burgers. And this idea that everybody should have a, what was the term they coined like 10 years ago? A living wage. Everybody should have a living wage. No, everybody ought to be smart enough to make enough money to make a living wage. Yeah. And if all you know how to do is scan barcodes and hand shit out the window, then guess what? That's not a skill. That's a stepping stone for a kid. That's for a kid that doesn't know anything out of school. That's not a job for an adult that has the capacity to learn more and become bigger and better.
Well, and the things you do, let's say you are flipping burgers. You need to make it your aim to be the best burger flipper there is in that joint. Well, you need to work with a work ethic that shows people I'm here to work and do my job so that I can go to the next stepping stone. This is really cool. I watched something recently on this. Mm-hmm. The Undercover Boss. Are you familiar with that?
It's kind of familiar,
the idea, right? Yeah. So the CEO or the owner of Checkers, the burger joint.
I think I might have seen that.
He went to this one, and this place was a dumpster fire. Yeah. It was awful, and the manager was screaming at the employees. And this guy, I think he was like the burger flipper or the cashier or something, and he's like, you can't talk to people that way. You can't treat us like that. And we have customers. And so he's trying to kind of stand up to the manager, and the manager's like, if you don't like it here, you can leave. And he's like, well, anyway, so the Undercover Boss is there for the whole thing.
Beautiful. Yeah.
He ends up firing the manager and promotes this guy to run the whole store.
Right. And that works. And that's what happens when you have employees. Look, when I was a young man, I went to work for a cabinet shop. I've always been really good at math, and so this guy just identified very quickly that I'm good at math. Hey, this guy can draw plans, and I did. I drew plans. I did all sorts of stuff, and I only was employed for a year and a half before I became self-employed permanently, for the rest of my life. But that's what I'm saying. You go into that environment, and you should always work hard, whether you like your job or not. You should work hard. It doesn't mean you have to do it forever. Right. I mean, it's a good idea just to go flip burgers, to know that I don't want to flip burgers the rest of my life.
That's right.
Come home smelling like French fries. Yeah. I mean, that's how it works. Yeah. But anyways, what else we got here? Barry, what'd you say, Barry?
He said Trader Joe's has
He retracted his message. I'm wondering what he said.
It says Trader Joe's has great employees.
Yeah, I can't argue that. They're decent. They seem pretty happy overall, I got to say. So they're doing something right.
Does anybody have any questions? Questions about real estate? Questions about a deal they have?
Oh, so Ernie actually wrote what kind of offer would make a Hardees work. Like I said, and back to this. Actually, let me go back to this a little bit. So here we got this Hardees.
What are they asking?
They got 2.3, and it puts out 5.25 cap rate. So what would make this probably worth it, to answer your question, is if it had a higher cap rate, but also your hedge, right? You got to have a hedge if things fall apart. If they stop paying, and if they went under, or something crazy happened, is it really a good location? Can you rent it for more? Believe me, I've bought assets that I was just like, your day's coming, and I let the tenant know, listen, come this date, your rent's going way up. Do you want to negotiate that lease now? Mm-hmm. And if they want to wait to the end, to the very last month before they want to re-up their lease, they're not going to have a lease. They're going to have an eviction notice, because I'm gonna say, look, I can get your place rented right now, 6 months before I need it, or you can rent it 6 months before you have to move, and then it's on them. And so those are the kinds of things you got to consider, just as a landlord in general. And so tell me, I got a feeling our feed is doing poorly again. I'm getting some weird messages. It's still good for you there, Barry? But anyhow, one of the things I was going to talk about here is like this. You're going to see it coming up here. Yeah, right. This here. This drives me crazy. I can't stand unpriced listings, right?
We talked about this.
Yeah, unpriced listings. And it's like, why? And Chris was, we were talking about, and I was telling that the number one reason why is they really don't care about selling the property. They simply are doing data gathering. They want you to call up and ask about it and go, oh, so you're in the market for this type of a building. What's your name? What's your phone number? What's your email? They're list gathering. And then from then on, you'll perhaps start getting pestered for, hey, do you want to list your place? A lot of times I make notes. Hey, well, what do you own? Do you already own some properties? You know what I mean? And if you want to be taken serious, like I tell people, yeah, well, I got about 150,000 or 180,000 square feet of retail or industrial or whatever I happen to have. So that they understand that, yeah, no, I'm serious. I'm looking to buy. But, yeah, this stuff here drives me crazy.
Do you ever call on the unpriced stuff?
Yeah, I did a few times, and that's why.
Yeah.
I would say, well, the seller doesn't really need to sell. Well, then why are you even putting it up?
Right.
It's like it's just a waste of everybody's time is the way I look at it. Anyways, asking price, unpriced, I'll take it.
Right.
Stupid. Deal terms are not currently defined. Yeah, great. Request your own specific terms when submitting a non-binding offer. So, yeah,
I mean,
if you want to waste some time, send her a letter of intent.
I mean, here's the deal. Okay, fine, they're trying to collect emails or phone numbers or whatever, but like in the real estate market, as far as residential goes, when you go to sell a home, you tell everything about that home. It's got granite countertops. We've got Gardencom.
It's because
we've got
it's
a walk-in
really
shower.
That's my point. Yeah, it's really for sale.
It's really for sale.
This is not for sale.
But even some of the stuff that is for sale with the numbers listed, they've got to know that an investor is going to come in. So tell us, what is the current rent roll? Like put it out there. What are the taxes?
Well, now look at here. Just take a look at this. If you look at this, and this is good to catch. Now here's a priced. Here, this property's priced $9.6 million, $3.3 million. Look at it has an offering memorandum, right? This unpriced one has an offering memorandum. That's interesting. This one doesn't, though. See, this unpriced listing doesn't have an offering memorandum. And so it's like, if it doesn't have an offering memorandum and if it doesn't have details on what the asset produces, what kind of income it brings, how on earth are you supposed to make an offer on it?
An educated offer.
Well, you can't base it. You're an investor. You're basing it on the cap rate.
That's right.
In large part.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, so you're not going to tell me how much money it makes, but you'll entertain an offer. Okay. It's aggravating.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. Let's see what else. Jake wrote, what brokerages do you use to sell your own deals? Do you notice certain brokers tend to have better deals, or is it case by case? Jake, what I do, listen, I just gave 2 listings to my daughter. I told her I'd give her $1,000 if she got her license. And she went and got her license. And then I said, okay. And I actually had a house I was going to put her in, but she kind of, we'll just say that she opted not to have the house. But she just sold 2 houses. In other words, she listed them, somebody else sold them. She's going to get a commission on those. To me, Jake, there's agents that would argue with me on this, I'm sure. But to me, when you give a listing to an agent, in most parts, it's like a gift. In other words, you're doing them a favor. You're doing, I do this with everybody. I say, listen, bring me a decent deal. When I go to sell it, I'll let you have the listing. they basically take those, the information on the house, they put it on the open market, somebody else sells it. It's like 99% of the deals go that way. And that's okay. And that's why when you see these agents advertise, when you see them advertising, they're really advertising for listings, but like, I'm going to sell your property. I know how to get it sold. I do, all these 10 layers of different things that I do to make things sell. And it's all horseshit. What they do is they put it in the MLS. Somebody else sells it. Okay. And that's how it works. That's really all they can do. Barry, well, Trader Joe's, In-N-Out Burgers, Shake Shack, ChickfilA, hire and train their employees. Well, actually I have a son that worked at Shake Shack, and man, that's why I mentioned the French fries. He stood in front of that French fryer for about 2 months, and he realized he never wants to fry a French fry.
I love Chick-fil-A and the way they treat you as a customer. I worked there for 2 days and realized I'm never working fast food again. And I went back to mowing lawns. Yeah. I'm actually not a people person particularly. And I, said I've owned a bar out of necessity. It was because I was saving the right to sell liquor. So I had to open a bar. I didn't want to open a bar, but I opened a bar. But it was all about the real estate. I appreciate the input. The feed still looks good, apparently, at least to Jorge. Hey, Tom, what cities are you looking to invest in? You know what? I'm not opposed, actually, to Tennessee, and I'm not opposed to Kentucky. I'm not opposed to investing in North Carolina. And also, I like Tampa Bay. I like Tampa Bay area. I like Ben Malla's area, actually. Something happened. Is it different for bigger commercial deals? Like, do you prefer to give it to a bigger broker like JLL or Marcus and Millichap?
Listen, if you want to sell a property, this is the most basic guidelines I tell everybody, and this is what I go by myself. If it's a residential property, in the neighborhood, you drive through that neighborhood that you own maybe one or two or a few properties in, take a look at the agent that has listings. Because sometimes you'll go in, you'll see, damn, this agent has every listing in the whole place. Give it to her, okay? And this is why you give it to her or him. You give it to that agent that has the most signs in the neighborhood if you decide you're going to use an agent, and it's because they have at least one or two people that, fought over a property and one of them didn't get it. So she goes, I have a buyer. And that might mean she has an agent that she knows that brought a buyer that didn't get it. Two were fighting, one lost. So she's got this loser list basically on the other sales, and she can say, you know what, your house is a lot like this one, and I know another couple that would love it because they tried and they couldn't get the other one. And so, anyhow, believe me, that's a very valid tip right there. Jake wrote, is it different for bigger commercial deals?
That's what I just asked.
Okay, yeah, I kind of got off topic a little bit, though, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, like I say, LoopNet is basically the MLS for, and there's actually some stuff I won't share. That's stuff that is little secrets that I use to find better deals. And I'm not going to share them here because I got people that pay me for that stuff now. Matt wrote, do you have experience with Section 8 rentals? Would you do a Section 8? Listen, I've had one Section 8 tenant in my life, and the individual, he was a nice enough guy, he was strange as hell, but and I can't say he paid his rent every month because he didn't pay his rent at all. His rent came from Section 8. They paid his rent, but he didn't burn the place down, and he lived there. I mean, he lived there before I bought the property, and that was a really good property. They ended up putting an overpass on this property, and I got my property taken away from me by eminent domain. But in the end, I made some money. But the bottom line is, listen, you're going to get people that basically have screwed up in life, or they're not all together. They can be, the Section 8, what I've seen, you got people that are mentally challenged to some degree, physically challenged to some degree. And you've got some that are just playing the system, that don't want to work and have a bunch of kids, that they can't afford to take care of. And some are probably perfectly good parents, some are not. And so, do I want a house with, 4 bastard children, that are, stealing in the neighborhood? No, probably not. You know what I mean? But they also have different varieties of Section 8. They have some that are like single unit, and they're only allowed, one person is allowed to live there. And I actually have one of those kinds of properties near one of mine, and they're not too much trouble. I've seen a couple things I don't like, but for the most part, no trouble. I had one of those guys who would come over. He'd go over to the bar that I owned, and I remember I was sitting there eating with my family. We actually had pretty good burgers there, and I'm looking, and this guy's trying to get my attention, and he's like in the lobby. I'm in the body of the restaurant. He's in the lobby, and he's looking over me, and he's got his jacket completely undone. You can see his fat belly, and he's leaning over, like trying to like this, trying to get like leaning over so he could see me, because there's like a wall here, and I'm looking at him, and he's going, like, do I got a cigarette? And of course he did it to the wrong guy, because I own the property. So I walked straight over to him and I said, "Get the hell out of here." I said, "This is not the place to beg. Out, go, go, go." And I'll tell you one thing about him. You ask him to leave, he would just leave. There's never any problem other than, it's just, just kind of a creepy nuisance.
Sure. Yeah.
So anyways, what else?
Housing authorities will pay significantly over market rent sometimes, Matt says.
Yeah, that's probably true. If you get it, they probably, that's like government, and they, they're spending other people's money, so they don't care. It just doesn't matter. But no, look, I think Ben Malla cleaned up on, he did a lot of Section 8, and people want to live somewhere, whether they live like slobs or not, or live in a rough neighborhood or not. They choose that area to live. And if somebody else is paying your rent, you're probably going to be a pretty stable tenant. So why not? Anyways, what else? We cover anything else? Anybody else we can call it a night here, guys.
Here's a creative idea I saw that I came across. I was watching earlier, but somebody bought an old school because the school zoning kind of got reshifted, and they kind of just shut down the school. So there's school for sale. Some beautiful schools. Somebody bought the school, and they turned the entire school into an apartment building.
Oh, nice.
Kind of, restructured the inside, and the classrooms became the apartments. And
well, I did that, but I turned the school into residential, or commercial, actually.
Right.
A commercial property.
Yeah.
And that's why I know, classroom size is 750 square feet. They're 30 by 25. At least that was the old standard.
Yeah.
But and what's neat is a lot of times you'll have a property, and I've got several properties like this, that they were built before the town blew up and grew up. Mm-hmm. And now these places that were once like a farm road or, off the beaten path are now a busy intersection.
Sure.
And now even though some of the things that'll happen, like I've got some properties, I've got a few properties. Prime, like an industrial type property located at a prime intersection, but there's not enough parking to take advantage of the prime retail store that it would be. So what ends up happening is it ends up becoming a discounted asset. Still a great asset, still a great paying, money making deal. Mm-hmm. But the limitations are the physical size of the lot and parking this time. Yeah. So things like that can happen.
Does it? I think I know how you would answer this question, but I'll ask it anyway. In situations like that, do you ever consider a tear down and rebuild of something?
Yeah, I do. And I talked about it, but Gardencom was one that went out of business. And I can kind of show you this. Let me show you this on Google. Let's see if this works. So Stack, or I'm sorry, Stack, whoops. What's over there? There's, yeah, this is it. I'm taking you near a landmark. There's actually a Honda dealership near this property. But so take a look at this. This goes to exactly what you were talking about, Chris. So, see this building? This was a 50,000 square foot building, and it housed, I think, Gardencom, which was a colossal failure, in the .com era, in the early 2000s.
Garden Ridge?
Garden.com.
Garden.com.
Garden Ridge is actually a beautiful property, now covered with retail. But
right.
no, this was a 50,000 square foot building. And it may have even, in fact, we can kind of, let's just double check it real quick here. But the problem with this property was it didn't have enough parking. I mean, here it is. It's sitting next to a Lowe's. So check it out. You got a Lowe's. You got, there's a dermatologist here, some professional offices, good-looking building right here. And then this was just kind of an industrial building, because there's some industrial property. In fact, I own some property around here. Actually, I sold one of them. Over here, I have Sunstick, yeah. Anyways, I have a building in here somewhere. But that's how I know about this one. But anyways, again, great location, but the building was bigger than the lot, so it didn't have the parking to support it as retail. And so what they did is, you can see it right here, they cut this little square out to create more parking. And to make it, they might even taken a little piece of the building out over here, to be honest. In fact, the way I can kind of check this, let me just see real quick.
Wow, really fascinating to think about taking out part of the building.
Yeah, there's another one I should have done it on. Yeah, see, that says 40,000 square feet. So I got a feeling this building was probably more like this. Yeah, that sounds about right. You can see, right?
Yeah.
So they took out 15,000 square feet because you could see it's just, there's not enough. And so let's do the math on that and think about it. Right now you could get, at the time, industrial property, 80 cents a foot. Okay. So 50,000 square feet, and just say you got 80,000, that's 40,000, right, a month. But if it was retail, you might get $2 a foot, right? But you're not going to get $100,000 or $100,000 a month out of it. Wait a minute, what's the math on that? 80?
You said 80 cents versus $2, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Versus $2. Yeah. Yeah. So 8 is 40. Yeah. So we're talking about 40,000 a month. Yeah. And so this is the trade-off, and this is why it makes total sense. You get 40,000 in the bigger building, or you remove this area that I just had cut out, and now you're reduced down to probably 35,000, I think. Double check it.
Maybe 30.
No, maybe. Yeah, 30. So they removed 20,000 square feet. Sounds like a lot, right? But now they're going to get $60,000 a month on 30,000 square feet, rather than 40,000 on 50,000 square feet.
Less maintenance, less upkeep as well.
Oh yeah, and probably, maybe even a more stable clientele.
Sure,
possibly.
Yeah.
So
wow, very very fascinating.
And you can see what's in here. I guess you can't see too well here, but I know that there was like a furniture store here, and maybe a smoothie shop and something else in here. But it looks good. It's pretty. In fact, it sold for a really good deal. In all honesty, I mean, there's listen, you can't buy everything. That's just that you wish you could. But
right.
It's impossible. But anyways,
cool. Tricks of the trade.
Yep. Anyways, well, I think we covered enough for the night.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, hey, thanks everybody for hanging out and watching. Again, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you want to learn more, you can go to FlipAnythingUSA.com. You can take a look at the testimonials, people that have been in my class that have made money and really changed their lives in a huge way. And when I don't talk in terms of deals, I usually show specific properties that I bought and sold and made money on. And we have a ton of students now. I mean, Chris has shared several that he's made a lot of money on. And we got a bunch of guys like that. Russ, who is in here as well. And so it's definitely worthwhile. If you can afford it, you should consider the mentorship. At a minimum, you should get my book, because the book alone, you could make $1 million on the book if you apply it right. Mentoring, there's nothing like mentoring. That's the best. But short of that, this is quite effective. So, anyways, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Stop and listen. Time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate.